Good morning, good morning. This is your Coach Renz. We are going live. We're going to talk about the hypocritical attitude of military personnel towards Colin Kaepernick. And this, let me go ahead and establish I am a former Marine. I am a former Marine, so which just means I'm an inactive Marine because we're always Marines, never not Marines. We give people a few minutes to get on here before I really get started because I'm not so much focusing on why he's protesting. I'm not so much focusing on the Nike deal. The hypocritical attitude I've seen from many military people, and some of the military people who I know personally, who are going to be on here, who are going to have something to say. I wish I can figure out how to share this to my regular page. But to some of those military people that I served with, I'm about to tell some of the little secrets that we don't like people to know when it comes to combat, when it comes to the idea of combat, to the imagery of combat that we give off. So if you get mad at me, you'll be all right. You'll be all right. You'll be just fine. But just to give a little bit of a breakdown for those who may not be in the full know, because for a while yesterday I wasn't in the full know of it. I'm seeing all these posts about people cutting off their Nike swooshes and burning their clothes and all these kind of things. So for the first half of the day, I had no idea what was going on. And then a person who's he's extra, but I happened to see a post on his page. And seeing the post on his page is what alerted me to the situation. And as I watched the day go on, I started to see a lot of the military people that served when I served, a lot of the ones who were in boot camp with me, and I know your jacket, I know where you went and what your job was. I started seeing their comments and their negative comments and their hypocritical comments. And then beyond that, I just started seeing a lot of other hypocritical memes and comments, especially those by military personnel. So it bothered me because as a person who served in the military, but also deals in just straight reality of what is what is. How you guys doing? Let me know when you come in. Whomever is on my YouTube page, if there's a way that you can, I can't share this to my regular page. Please share it for me. I greatly appreciate it. But for those people who did serve with me, and I know what they did, and I understand certain things about the military that the average person won't. So when I see some of their comments, they are hypocritical. Now, before I go deeper into that, let me say this: the ones that I've seen, the memes and everything, good morning, Marco, that says like Pat Tillman would have been a better example. And most people today, here's the thing: Pat Tillman happened. It was honored by the NFL. But they didn't keep that alive. A lot of people who are watching internet, watching all this kind of stuff right now, they have no idea who Pat Tillman was or who he is. They don't know him. They don't understand him. Nike is not going to invest in that because it's not a live character. It's not a live thing that's going on. You got to also recognize that this is a business for Nike. They're doing a social thing, but this is also business for them. So you can get mad at them all you want to, but at the end of the day, they're doing business. They're doing business. And I'm not mad at them for doing business in the way that they're doing it. But let's get down into it. A lot of my military personnel was saying that they should have used a person like Pat Tillman because the inscription on there said he sacrificed it all. And we're going to talk about what does that mean, sacrificing it all. Right? But before we even go there, let me go ahead and dismantle, for those who just want to hear this part, let me go ahead and dismantle this idea that Colin Kaepernick's sacrificing it all should not even be there because they want to show this military person who died or this police officer who died. Let's actually look at this situation. Now, I'm going to mainly stick with the military because I've never been a police officer, but many of my military friends are police officers. And what they tell me is that in most cases, being a police officer was safer than being in the military. I'm going to go ahead and put that there. Being a police officer is safer than being in the military. The county I grew up in, almost every police officer, well, I ain't going to say almost every, but that's too finite. Most police officers in the area I grew up in retired. Most retired. Most will go their entire life, their entire career, without ever pulling their gun, without ever feeling like their life was in danger. So let's dispel. Yes, you got the one cop. He died. He sacrificed it all during his doing his duty. You got military personnel who sacrifice it all during their duty, doing their duty. But it's also doing what they signed up for. When you join the military, the first thing you do is take an oath. I, Lorenzo Reed, do solemnly swear to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And it goes on. But that's what you say. And that's where I want to stick. You swear to defend the Constitution. What is the Constitution? What does the Constitution guarantee? It guarantees you the right of protest. It gives you the freedom of press. It gives you the freedom of speech. It gives you the rights to bear arms. It also gives you, right? It gives you the right of assembly and protest. It gives you the right to assemble and protest. They also talk about tyranny. If the tyranny grows, it is the duty and the responsibility of the people to fight against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And what Colin Kaepernick is saying is that the enemy to Black America, to young Black men just walking down the street, driving their cars, being on vacation, trying to barbecue, the enemy of that is the police state that we live in. And he protested against a domestic enemy of a civilian, a citizen of this country, against citizens of this country who are just trying to live. Are there criminals in every group? Yes. Are there bad people in every group? Sure. Do we need police protection? Unfortunately, yes. But what we don't need is police arbitrarily, first thing is to shoot a Black kid. We don't need police pulling their gun as a first instinct when they see a Black kid, but then you see so many videos of them not doing it when it's a white kid. So he protested what you, military people, said that you were willing. Nobody forced you. You were willing to die for. You were willing to sacrifice. You were willing to sacrifice for what you love. Now let's talk about these military people. I was one of them. Many military people are walking around as combat veterans. They are combat veterans. They might have a combat action ribbon. They go to the VA in their jacket. They're combat veterans. And I'm not trying to take away anything from whatever level of PTSD that anyone may have from whatever they did. But let's be real. 80% of the jobs in the military are non-combative jobs, meaning you do not see combat. Your job is not engineered for you to be at the forward edge of the battlefield. You are not clearing houses and buildings and going through forests and woods and coming up against an enemy directly in front of your face. Now, those other ones who received combat action, they were in theater. And you need to understand that. As a civilian, I want you guys to understand this part. That when a military person has a combat action because they were in theater, that means that I was on a ship in the Persian Gulf during Desert Storm. We didn't go on land. Nothing was fired at us, but I was in the area that was determined to be the combat area. Many people when I was the first Desert Storm, many people were in Bahrain. They were in Dubai, but that was considered the combat theater. They got a combat action. They got a combat. They're a combat veteran. When our ship rolled up to Bosnia, we were off the coast of Bosnia. At that moment, we were in the theater of combat action. You see, there's a difference that people don't understand. Combat and being in a theater makes you a combat veteran, but you didn't see combat. So don't act like you are a real combat veteran, because you're not. Just because some paperwork says you are. Now let's talk about another version. Now you say I'm buffering on YouTube. Let me flip this onto the Wi-Fi. Make it see if it's better. All right. So there's another aspect of combat that's written in the regulations, written in the regs. That other aspect, and let me know if I'm buffering on YouTube. That other aspect of it is if you fired your weapon or any other type of weapon into the combat zone, you are considered a combat veteran. All right. If you fire weapon, that means if you are an artillery person sitting 5-10 miles away from the combat action and you fire artillery, you press the button to launch a missile. If you're on a ship or a submarine, you press the button, or your ship fires a missile or fires rockets, you're a combat. That's combat action. You get a combat action rating. You're a combat veteran. You didn't fight nobody. You didn't see it. You didn't see where it went. You didn't see the destruction. You didn't see what harm it caused. You didn't see anybody get that die, but you get it. Here's the worst version of it to me. This is the worst version. You got a guy sitting, you know, at some base in America, or sitting in way back in the rear, another country away, miles away, and he's flying a drone. That drone is flying through Afghanistan. He sees the building, he blows the building. He gets in his Jeep, gets in his car, and he drives home because he's in DC, and then he drives home. That person is now considered a combat veteran. My uncles who served in Vietnam, my grandfather and father-in-laws who served in Korea, the veterans that I've met in World War II would be appalled at a person who fires from a drone from the comfort of a compound in DC somewhere, or NORAD somewhere, and I don't even know if NORAD's still operational, but they get a combat action. They get considered to be a combat veteran. And then you got in your Jeep and you drove home and you watched Power that night. You shouldn't even have a combat action. You shouldn't. To me, that's disrespectful to those who have served in what I would tell you is real combat. Real combat. Oh, and want to get another one. Those who fly planes over an area and drop some bombs, but there's no flak being shot back at you. There's nothing being shot back at you. You get a combat action as well. Nothing came at you, but you flew over, you're way up, you know, a mile high. You drop some bombs, you get a combat action. Sorry. You're not even, there was no threat to your life at any point. At any point that the enemy posed a threat to you, it shouldn't be a combat action. You just drop some bombs. Now the real ones, which this real one probably because there's no way to count it. Well, there is a way because all of our actions are tracked, but the real ones is around 5%. 5% of military personnel are actually in a situation where you're shooting at them, they're shooting at you. You're flying your plane into close proximity to the enemy. Somebody's shooting at you, artillery is being fired at you, and you're firing back at them. You're clearing houses, and there are enemy combatants in the houses. The number of actual veterans who get fired upon, where their life was actually in danger, is very, very low. Very low. The number of people in the military is only about, I think, about 2 to 3 million, maybe 4 at the most. We represent like less than 1% of the American population. Out of the less than 1% of the American population, the smallest of that percent actually has somebody firing at them. So for all my hypocritical ass military people who are on my page, and if I lose you, then so the hell what, because you know I'm telling you the truth. You're claiming that he didn't make the ultimate sacrifice. Dude, your life in all the years you served was never in danger. I've had more military personnel I know who died from accidents. A truck rolled over because a fool was driving too fast around the hills in Kentucky. And that's a real event. Killed 15 people. I've known more who died from those types of incidents than those who actually were in combat. And I served in commands that dealt with people who went into theater and had to do real combat. So when I see them posting that Colin Kaepernick didn't sacrifice it all, and the only people they're qualifying who sacrificed it all are the ones who died, well, you're being hypocritical because you run around talking about combat as if you were in theater. You're telling other people's stories. Now, when I hear you and I see you and I see the stuff you're talking about, I know you're full of shit. I know you're full of it because I know the real deal. I know the real deal. Now, I don't know how it's affected you, because if you flew a plane and you bombed some people and you find out that there were some non-combatants, some women and children, some people who were just trying to get along, and they're caught up in this mess and they died and it messes with your head, I'll never take that away from you. That's legit. If you were in the rear, they kept saying that Scud missiles were coming. That damn alarm went off all the time. Very few people had to deal with it, but the anxiety of that dang on thing going all the time, the fear of that you constantly lived in, because you kept thinking any day now, any second now, any day now, any second now. I'm not going to take that away from you, what it may have done to your brain and how it may have stressed you. I was super stressed when I was supposed to be on a helicopter, but my own stupidity that wound up being a benefit. I got lost on this helicopter carrier, missed my flight, but that helicopter went down and everyone in the helicopter died along the slave trade trail, which is still filled with sharks. Does it mess with my head, the fact that I was supposed to be on that helicopter? Sure. Most people say, oh, you should look at it as a blessing. No, I look at it as the reality that the normal me would have never missed that flight. So does it mess with my head sometimes? Of course it does. Do I wake up sometimes seeing from a dream that I was actually on the helicopter and I was trying to get out of the helicopter and it was underwater and there was sharks all around me? Do I wake up sometimes because I feel the bite of the sharks? I do. But that's why I never take away the experiences that you have, even though you did not have the combat experience. But to say that he didn't sacrifice it all. Let me explain something to you. Everybody's sacrifice is not the same. My mother worked 2.5 jobs to try to take 3 kids. She sacrificed her fun, she sacrificed her body, she sacrificed her sleep, she sacrificed a lot to make sure that we could eat. And most of the time we couldn't. We had to go to other family members' houses. We didn't have furniture often. Sometimes we got evicted out of our home. It happened. But she worked, she grinded, she did as much as she possibly could. Which is why we make sure that we take her on vacations, take her to the places that she couldn't go, because she was trying to make sure we had some sort of a life. I'll never say that my mother did not sacrifice at all, because she did. My grandmother, from what I understand before I was born, her relationship to my grandfather was abusive. But she had a family to raise. And because of what she did, and then my grandfather finally coming into his senses sometime after I was born, my grandmother sacrificed for her children, and the sacrifice she had for her children is what some of you guys saw, is the outpouring, is the results of what you saw in the videos, in the Instagrams of us 21st family vacation, 50 people, multiple generations, all coming from these 2 people, the strands of family, the love that was there. All of that is because of those 2. Because even though my grandmother sacrificed during that time frame, I know from my childhood, my grandfather, being of right mind, made sure that we did trips to keep the small family he had together at that time. So they both sacrificed. They both had a mindset of family. There are people who sacrifice things all the time. Some sacrifice their life, Dr. King, Malcolm X. Some sacrifice better condition. Mother Teresa, she didn't have to be up in the mountains and hills and doing all the stuff she was doing, but she did something that she loved, My grandparents, what they loved. Dr. King, what he loved. Police officers, what they love. Military people, what they love. You love the Constitution. The Constitution gives Colin Kaepernick the right to protest, protest injustice. Tyranny reigns when good men sit aside and do nothing. That's the thing you were that's the thing you were fighting for. That's the thing that you said that you were willing to die for, even though your life was probably never in danger. So what did Colin Kaepernick sacrifice? What did he sacrifice? He sacrificed the thing that he loved. Most of you have no idea what it takes to get to the level of being a NFL starting quarterback. All the things you got to sacrifice and go through from the moment from childhood up through teenage years, college, and so on and so forth. He sacrificed what he loved. Let's not talk about the money. Forget about the money, because many of you like to jump on the money. He sacrificed what he loved. He sacrificed it during the prime of his years. Like Ali sacrificed during the prime of his years to stand up for what he believed in. He sacrificed during the prime of his years for what he truly loved doing. And now he's at a state where he probably will never get to fulfill the thing that he truly loved, to play at a level that he truly has the ability to do so and truly loved doing, to win the championships, or at least try. He can never even try. Imagine if you have a dream, you have something that you always wanted to do since you were a kid, and now you can't even try to fulfill it because you took a stand, because people were being violated of their civil rights. You say that man didn't sacrifice. You have no idea what sacrifice is. And for some of these military guys who you went, you got to enjoy the fun. You had fun. We partied. We drank. We got to go to different countries and party. And we got to do all kind of things. You never saw combat. You may not have even been in a combat theater. Because I know some of you guys went in when I went in. I went to Desert Storm late at the tail end. Most of you never even went to Desert Storm, the first one. Most of you got out before 9/11. So you never went to Afghanistan. You saw other people go. And during those years between Desert Storm and the second Desert Storm, whatever, the Gulf War, whatever they called it, I forgot what it's called. You didn't go to Bosnia. You weren't on the ship with me. You weren't on any of the units. You weren't part of the NATO contingency that went into Bosnia. You didn't go down to Sudan. You didn't go to Rwanda. You didn't go to Somalia. You didn't go to those places. Most of you didn't. Most of you sat on your bases. Most of you provided support. You didn't go. It takes 10 people to support one person who is in real combat. You didn't go. You spent your time going from base to base to base, being a drill instructor, being all the things prepared, always prepared for it, but you didn't go. You didn't make any ultimate sacrifice. You didn't even get close to it. So don't be hypocritical to somebody who lost their dream, who lost the thing that they had been setting their life up for, and they lost it. And you can't express the same kind of loss. So from one former Marine who had many encounters where loss of life could have happened. Sometimes it was just accidents. I'm not claiming all of them to be combat action. I've been in combat theater. I've been in combat action. But I've also been in a situation where accidents could have happened. I've also been in a situation where you were just at risk. But at no point do I quantify what I was willing to do, what I was willing to lose for what Kaepernick was willing to give up, for what anybody who stands up for another group of people was willing to give up. So military people, I'm sorry I bust your bubble. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry really that I'm telling the little dirty secret that everybody who has a combat action, that the majority of people who have a combat action ribbon on, who's a combat veteran, never, ever, 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 ever had their life in actual danger. So stop trying to act as if you and every military person is so insulted. You're insulted because Kaepernick is taking advantage of the rights that you swore an oath to protect. He's taking advantage of it. He's doing what an American citizen is supposed to do. When an American citizen, Thomas Jefferson told you, when an American citizen sees an injustice, it is his duty to stand up for it. MacArthur said that it is your duty to stand up against tyranny. And black people are being terrorized in their own communities by a police force that has been conditioned to see black as the target, as the enemy. So for all my military people, if you don't remember anything, I want you to remember just this. I state your name. Do solemnly swear to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Foreign and domestic. That was your oath. Remember your oath. And y'all have a great day. Remember, you got to free yourself to be yourself, because your greatness is non-negotiable.